Hey, what's up YouTube and eBay resellers? We're gonna take a look at the last 20 thrifted ties that I've sold on eBay so that you can learn the different types of ties that have the best chance of selling quickly. Yes, you can make money even in a slow moving flooded category like men's ties if you know what to look for. Let's get right into it with our first tie. This is a vintage rooster tie. The reason that I picked this up, 100% linen, so that's the rule of material. You want to look for ties that are not your standard silk or polyester and investigate those because sometimes they are worth some money and those types of ties tend to move quicker. That tie sold in about 7 weeks, just under 2 months for that one to move for full price there, $22.95. Up next, we have another alternate material. This one is 100% wool. I had never heard of the brand, but was drawn to it because it's a wool tie, and it had kind of an interesting theme. It's got like skis with flowers over it, so it's like this whole ski motif thing. However, this tie was sitting longer than I would like. It took 6 months to sell, and I wound up taking an offer on it for 13 bucks. And if you're like, Eric, why are you selling ties for 13 bucks? That doesn't sound that great. You know, at 13 bucks, I'm out 4 bucks shipping, about $1.50 in fees, and the dollar I paid for the tie. So at least 7.5 bucks. I'm still, the ROI is 750%. Which is not that bad. So you can grab things super cheap and still make 7-8 bucks on what for me is a kind of bread and butter filler inventory piece. Totally worth it. Up next, this is an excellent type of tie to look out for. I went over this type of tie extensively in another video. It's actually the video where I discuss how I store, ship, and inventory ties, and then the back half of it as a bonus, I go over the peekaboo necktie. Your peekaboo ties will have some sort of picture hidden under the folds on the back of the big tip. In this case, it is a topless chick. And I had a question recently for this type of tie. Do you post the pictures as is or do you censor them? I do censor them when it's a nude situation because I'm not listing in an adult category. This is just the general tie category. Had this listed for $59.95. There's the label for you. Girls Day Paris is a well-known label in this category of tie that you want to pick up pretty much every time you find it unless there's condition issues. Listed this for $59.95 and wound up taking a counter offer on it for $48. And this sold in just about 3-4 weeks. Took just under a month for this to sell, turning a buck into 48. Not too bad. Up next, we've got a Land's End bow tie. Land's End can definitely be in play when it comes to the tie category, and I wouldn't hesitate to pick up their bow ties if they're at normal prices, 50 cents, a buck, stuff like that. I'll pick up a Land's End bow tie. This one being a nice plaid, I thought was a no-brainer. It did take 3 months to sell, and it sold for the price on the screen there, $19.51. I was running a 15% off sale at the time. Great pickup there. Always check out bow ties when you see them. I prefer the branded ones, but not always, as you'll see later. Here's just a very standard Brooks Brothers tie. It's navy. It's got an orange and red kind of small paisley pattern on it. And this sold for $16.16. It was a 10% off sale. And this did take 3 months to sell. Anytime you're going to sell Brooks Brothers, you're gonna be up against a bunch of other ties. It's one of your more commonly listed tie brands, so it's even more flooded than the flooded tie category. So sometimes you gotta be a little patient with Brooks Brothers, but if you've got the time, a nice looking Brooks Brothers tie is usually a good pickup. Here we've got a Trump tie. This sold for $20.66. I would like to get more for Trump ties typically. This one in particular, I didn't think was really quite the right fit with sort of the purple stripe thing going on. You really want the blue and red power ties in those political colors with Trump. So I had this price a little low, and it took 6 months to move, but I'm still happy to turn a buck or a $1.50 into $20.66, even if it takes a little while. Here's a Peter Millar tie. I don't come across Peter Millar ties very often. I will usually check them out when I do. This happened to be a 7-fold tie, and it is actually featured in my video, What is a 7-Fold Tie, which you should definitely check out because that can really amp up the value of a tie that you find depending on the brand. In the case of Peter Millar, not highly desirable, doesn't pull the big bucks, but still very happy to get $29.66 for it. And this was listed for just about 3.5 months. Here is a Paul Stewart. This is a square tip knit tie. It's kind of a bigger knit called a crunchy knit or a chunky knit. A lot of square tip knits are wool. This is 100% silk, made in Italy. Great tie all around. This sold for full price, $42.95. And this tie sold in 42 minutes. Great pickup there. And even if I wasn't familiar with the label, I'm gonna check it out because it's a square tip knit, and I know that's a good tie to look at. Up next, we do have an unbranded bow tie. This I could tell was vintage just by the look of it. And the reason I took a chance on this, even though it's unbranded, this is a different type of bow tie. This sort of tip is called a bat wing. Most of your bow ties have a more shaped tip, and they're designed to make that really nice bow when you tie it. So this is a different type of tie, a very particular kind of buyer. And even though this was unbranded, it only took this tie 2 hours to sell. It was listed for 2 hours or less and sold for the full $18.95. You know, if it was branded and I knew it was Brooks Brothers or Polo or something like that, I could have priced it higher. But taking a shot on an unbranded tie and getting to sell quickly for good money, I'm perfectly fine with that. Up next, we got Joseph A. Bank. I do think I go too deep on Joseph A. Bank sometimes, but if you're gonna pick up Joseph A. Bank, this is a really good one to get. This is a rep tie. Make sure you've watched my What is a Rep Tie video. This is the secret sauce to regularly selling ties. Very easy and common to find, sells in common to find brands. And in this case, just a very classic look with the hunter green and navy stripes. Also had that thin red stripe in there as well. This only took 3.5 hours to sell. Yes, I'm flipping Joseph A. Bank ties in less than 4 hours. In fact, if I go check my active inventory right now and search for the keyword rep, I probably have 0 ties listed because they all sell. Pick up rep ties. I can't stress enough. This did sell for the price on the screen, $14.36 on that 10% off sale. So that was 3 ties right in a row there. The vintage batwing bow tie, the rep tie, and then we had the square tip knit tie. That's the kind of info you're gonna find in my tie selling guides, which are linked in the description below. I've got one to teach you all about the types of ties that sell faster than others, and then a second one that is your brand sourcing guide that is a deep dive on over 100 different tie brands. If you wanna go from 0 to, oh, I sell ties all the time, what do you mean they're slow? Check out those guides. All the info is right there for you. Moving on, here's a Polo Ralph Lauren. Polo Ralph Lauren ties in general do sell faster than the category average. I'm choosy with them though. I'm picky. I don't grab them all. I get the ones that are interesting. The reason I wanted this, it still has a tag on it. So that's new old stock or dead stock is what a lot of people say. And I would have priced this even higher, but it's just such a kind of drab, boring, just a light blue tie. It is 100% linen. It's got that going for it as well. But I would have priced it higher if it was more interesting or if it had a pony on the tip or something like that. I did wind up taking an offer on this for 25 bucks and it sold in 1.5 days. So another really quick moving tie. Here is a J-Press tie. This was also featured in a video recently. I did a working tie haul video where I was showing off ties and talking about them as I was photographing them to list. And I had found 5 or 6 J-Press ties. This one did take a little while longer to move than some of the other ones, but it did sell for full price, $44.95. and that took right about 4 months to sell. I got that for $2 at a Salvation Army, so that's a great flip there. This tie would have sold faster if it was a J-Press rep tie. This was a printed silk and wool blend, so it took a little longer to move, but even at 4 months, very happy to get 45 bucks for a $2 investment. Here's another rep tie, and a great example of picking up a brand that is not a high value brand, not a quick mover, not a label you want to look out for generally. This was Gant, but because it was a rep tie and because it was the nice classic look with the hunter green and navy blue stripes, this one did have the thin yellow and red stripes with it. I knew that that was something that would move. I went ahead and got it for $1, listed it $17.95. It did sell for $16.16 on the 10% off sale, and that was only listed for 4 days. So another quick flipper there. Here's a Jerry Garcia. If you've seen any of my other tie videos, I do sell a decent amount of Jerry Garcia. Again though, very picky with what I pick up. I don't grab them all. You want the bright, colorful ties that are gonna be eye-catching statement type of pieces. I thought this one had a really cool color palette. I went ahead and grabbed it, and it did sell for, this one actually sold for $17.05, just like we have on the screen there, on the 10% off sale, and it was also listed for 4 days, so another pretty solid mover. Up next, we've got another bow tie. This label is R. Hanauer, made in the USA. Great bow tie label to look for. I will pick up basically any bow tie I find with this label if there's not condition issues. This one was a very dark paisley pattern, a little bit difficult to photograph there, probably could have lightened it up more. And it sold for $20.84. I had sent out an additional offer on top of the sale, I believe. And it was listed for 10 days. So another really nice quick mover. Here's a Paul Frederick tie. Not a label you necessarily want to just grab them all, but they make some really nice looking colorful ties. Paul Frederick in general moves right about the same as a category average for ties. So not necessarily a quick flipper, but this one being a jacquard and polka dot, I just thought was a really nice look. So went ahead and picked it up. This sold in 11 days and it went for $20.66 on the 10% off sale. Well, not too bad there. All right, here's a square tip 100% cotton necktie, and I had never heard of the Hillside. Don't know what that is, had never seen the label before, but because it's a square tip tie, and I know that's a good item to check out, I'm gonna investigate the tie. And what I found is the Hillside seems to hold some value across all kinds of different clothing items. If you see that label, I would definitely check it out and probably pick it up. This took 12 days to sell, and I got $26.36 for it on 20% off. Here we have another J-Press. This was in the same video as the other one, so it did take 4 months to sell. I thought this tie was super cool, being the dark red with the Razorbacks embroidered on there. I figured it would probably go to like a lawyer in Arkansas somewhere. But had been sitting for 4 months, and somebody shot me an offer for 25 bucks, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I wasn't able to reply with offer, so I just went ahead and changed the price for them, and they bought it right away. Here we got a Tommy Bahama. Tommy Bahama is not a fast seller. It actually sells at or even a little slower than the category average for men's neckties. It's just a brand I like to pick up, and I like to sell it. And I listed 3 the other day. This one sold right away in just about 6 hours. If you want to cherry pick Tommy Bahama, I would say stick to ones that have hula girls or some kind of alcohol theme. Those will sell the quickest and for the highest prices. But on this one, I actually took a counter offer or an offer, don't quite remember, for $13.25. And I was just happy to sell it quick. And then last but not least, we've got an Urban Gildo Zegna tie. And this tie is yellow. It's got umbrellas on it and birds. So it's kind of cool. if you want to pick up Zegna, it's another one similar to Brooks Brothers and Robert Talbot, where it's one of the most listed tie brands on eBay. And so when that happens, you're going to have a large listing pool, and that's going to just naturally drive the pace of the sale down, the sell-through rate down, and the prices down. So you either want to cherry pick it or be opportunistic. In this case, I got 10 ties for $2.50, and like 6 of them were Zegna ties. I was like, yeah, for 25 cents each, I'm all in on something like Zegna. So I listed them all the other day, all 5 or 6 of them or whatever it was with the Zegna label. This one sold in 11 hours, so very happy with that. I did get the $20.66 for it. So all in on these 20 ties, my cost of goods is probably right around $30. They're often $1 or $2, $1.49, 50 cents, and things like that. So say maybe an average of $1.50 each. $30 all in on cost of goods. And you can see we sold for quite a bit more than that. We had a couple ties up over $40, a bunch in the 20 range, and a few stinkers down at $12, $13. But I'm telling you, if you need filler inventory, bread and butter inventory that you want to sell from anywhere to 0 days to 6 months, you got to know what kind of ties to pick up and just swing by that tie rack or tie box when you're at the thrift store and add it to your repertoire. You're going to add money to your weekly sales every single week just by knowing what kind of ties to pick up. And if you really want a head start on that, like I said, check out the links in the description below. I'll link all the other videos that I referenced, and the tie guides are down there too. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Got a ton of content coming your way.